In a small, secluded town nestled within the dense woods, a forgotten cemetery lay hidden from the world. Locals spoke of it only in hushed whispers, warning each other to avoid it at all costs. For centuries, it had been a place shrouded in mystery and fear. The town, known for its idyllic charm and friendly atmosphere, held a dark secret that had been passed down through generations. Parents would gather their children around the hearth on stormy nights and recount the chilling tale of the forgotten cemetery. They spoke of apparitions that would wander the graveyard, searching for lost souls to claim as their own. Amongst the townsfolk, an unsettling silence fell whenever the cemetery was mentioned. Superstitions ran deep, and nobody dared to tread near the crumbling iron gates. The older folks would exchange knowing glances, their faces etched with fear and dread. It was as if the mere mention of the cemetery invited malevolence into their midst. However, despite the ominous stories, there was an unexplainable allure that drew the curious and the thrill-seekers. It was as if an invisible hand beckoned them, tempting them to unlock the secrets hidden within the cemetery's ancient tombstones. One gloomy autumn afternoon, a group of adventurous teenagers decided to challenge fate. They couldn't resist the allure any longer and plotted their journey into the heart of the woods. Jack, the charismatic leader of the group, was determined to confront the cemetery's malevolence and prove that it was all a mere exaggeration. As they approached the outskirts of the forbidden grounds, the atmosphere seemed to shift. The air grew heavy, and the once warm sunlight turned cold and eerie. The dense canopy of trees above cast elongated shadows, making the journey feel like a descent into an otherworldly realm. The rusted iron gates, adorned with ornate engravings, stood before them like a portal to the unknown. The groans of the metal echoed through the woods, causing the teenagers to exchange anxious glances. Still, fueled by youthful bravado and a desire to challenge the stories that had haunted their childhoods, they forged ahead. As they stepped inside the cemetery's threshold, a chilling breeze swept through the overgrown grass and tugged at their clothes. The sensation was as if unseen hands tried to pull them deeper into the realm of the forgotten dead. Goosebumps covered their skin, and their hearts pounded in their chests, but the thrill of the unknown compelled them to press on. Each step felt heavy, as if they were walking on sacred ground, unwelcomed by the restless souls beneath. The gravestones, weathered by time and the elements, stood like sentinels bearing witness to centuries of sorrow and pain. Some tombstones were adorned with wilting flowers, offerings left by families who still remembered their departed loved ones. But others lay bare, forgotten by time and the living. The cemetery's silence was deafening, broken only by the distant chirping of crickets and the occasional hoot of an owl. The group treaded cautiously, their flashlight beams sweeping across the ancient tombstones, illuminating names and dates worn away by the passage of time. And there, in the midst of the graveyard, they saw a mausoleum, its stone walls crumbling, with ivy creeping up like skeletal fingers. The doorway beckoned ominously, as if inviting them to unravel the mysteries that lay within. An unsettling feeling gnawed at the pit of their stomachs, but they couldn't resist the pull of curiosity. Little did they know that this journey would be a turning point in their lives, an encounter with the darkness that lurked just beneath the surface of their seemingly ordinary world. As they ventured deeper into the cemetery, the true horrors that lay in wait would soon reveal themselves, and the lines between reality and nightmare would blur beyond recognition. The cemetery was a desolate sight, overgrown with thorny vines and thick underbrush. Weathered gravestones leaned at odd angles, their inscriptions obscured by the passage of time. The air hung heavy with an otherworldly presence that seemed to stifle any sound. The once pristine gravestones, now eroded by the relentless hands of time, bore the weight of countless untold stories. Each name etched into the weathered stone represented a life once lived, now lost in the abyss of history. The engravings held fragments of forgotten lives, leaving the curious to wonder about the people who lay beneath the ground. Tendrils of moss clung tenaciously to the gravestones, like the cold fingers of death reaching up from the depths below. The vines wound their way around the names, as if to conceal the identities of those interred, hiding their pasts and imprisoning their memories within the confines of the cemetery. The weathered iron gates, once a symbol of strength and security, now stood twisted and rusty, as if protesting the passage of time and the encroachment of decay. They groaned eerily as the wind blew through, sending shivers down the spines of those who dared to venture close. The silence within the cemetery was almost tangible, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant hooting of an owl. It was as if the place was holding its breath, waiting for something, or someone, to disturb the eternal peace that had settled upon the graves. As the sun began its slow descent below the horizon, a haunting mist emerged from the ground, wrapping its ghostly tendrils around the tombstones. The air grew colder, and an icy chill settled in the hearts of the explorers. Shadows danced menacingly across the graves, casting eerie specters upon the ground. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay, mingling with the faint aroma of forgotten flowers placed upon the graves in times past. The combined scent evoked a somber ambience, as if the cemetery itself mourned the passage of time and the fading memories of those laid to rest. The group pressed on, their flashlight beams cutting through the darkness, revealing glimpses of the spectral world around them. In the distance, they spotted a figure shrouded in mist, standing motionless beside a particularly ancient tombstone. The eerie sight sent shivers down their spines, and they questioned whether they were alone in the desolate graveyard. With each step they took, the ground seemed to whisper stories of sorrow and longing, as if the spirits beneath sought to communicate with the living. The faint echo of mournful cries reverberated through the air, as if the dead were trapped in an eternal lament, longing for release from their earthly bonds. The dense undergrowth seemed to harbor a life of its own, as if it concealed secrets from both the living and the dead. The tangled branches reached out like skeletal arms, threatening to ensnare anyone who dared to wander too close. The group, gripped by a sense of foreboding, pressed on, navigating the treacherous terrain with caution. Yet, despite the sinister atmosphere, a strange fascination captivated them. The allure of the unknown, the thrill of confronting the afterlife's mysteries, kept them moving forward. As their journey into the heart of the cemetery continued, the boundary between the living and the dead blurred further, and the veil of reality grew ever thinner. As the night deepened, the cemetery's malevolence began to reveal itself. Strange, ghostly apparitions appeared among the graves, their hollow eyes fixed on the intruders. Unearthly moans seemed to come from every direction, and an inexplicable force tugged at the teens, as if trying to draw them deeper into the graveyard's heart. The ethereal forms materialized in wisps of translucent mist, hovering just above the ground like fading memories struggling to retain their form. Their eyes, hollow and devoid of life, stared into the souls of the living with an intensity that sent shivers down their spines. It was as if the spirits sought to make a connection with the living, yearning for acknowledgement and release. As the teenagers stood frozen in fear, they witnessed a chilling procession of spectral figures. A lady in a flowing white gown drifted gracefully, her sorrowful eyes piercing through the darkness, her ethereal presence hauntingly beautiful yet suffused with melancholy. Another apparition, a disheveled man in tattered clothing, seemed tormented by unseen anguish, endlessly pacing among the tombstones. Each step he took echoed with the weight of unresolved sorrows, leaving an imprint of his torment in the hearts of those watching. The whispers of unintelligible voices intensified, becoming a cacophony of haunting echoes that seemed to emanate from within their own minds. It was as if the spirits sought to communicate their untold stories, but the messages were veiled in the enigmatic language of the afterlife, lost in the divide between realms. Trepidation swelled within the group, but an unexplainable fascination kept them rooted to the spot, unable to tear their gaze away from the haunting spectacle before them. They were held captive by the raw emotions exuding from the apparitions, as if the cemetery itself had become a theater of the spirit's eternal drama. Amidst the spectral procession, the group glimpsed fleeting images of forgotten times. Scenes from eras long past played out like ghostly projections on the tombstones. The echoes of laughter and tears reverberated through the air, fading into the darkness as quickly as they had appeared. As the night grew darker, a sense of heaviness weighed upon the teenagers' hearts, as if the sorrow of generations long gone had taken residence within them. They yearned to reach out to the spirits, to offer solace and understanding, but fear held them in its grip, reminding them that they were mere intruders in this spectral realm. The moon, shrouded in a thin veil of clouds, cast an eerie glow upon the scene, painting the graveyard in shades of haunting silver. It was as if the heavens themselves were mourning the forgotten souls, their light serving as a reminder of the ethereal balance between the living and the dead. The group tried to step back, to retreat from the haunting presence before them, but the inexplicable force pulling them deeper into the heart of the graveyard seemed to intensify. It was as if the spirits sought to hold them captive, to ensure that their stories were not forgotten and their pain acknowledged. Time seemed to stand still, and the boundary between the mortal world and the realm of the spirits blurred. The living and the dead coexisted in this eerie dance, and the teens found themselves caught in the midst of a haunting symphony that transcended time and space. In that surreal moment, they became acutely aware of their own mortality, their fleeting existence in the grand tapestry of life and death. The forgotten cemetery had become a liminal space, where the living and the dead met in an eternal embrace, forever intertwined in the fabric of existence. Eventually, the specters faded back into the shadows, leaving the group both relieved and haunted by the encounters they had witnessed. The echoes of the cemetery's secrets lingered in their minds, and they could not shake the feeling that the spirit's presence would forever be imprinted upon their souls. As they began their retreat from the cemetery, the night air felt laden with the weight of the supernatural encounter. The whispers of the past seemed to follow them, and they knew that the forgotten cemetery's haunting mysteries would forever remain imprinted in their memories, leaving an indelible mark on their lives. As the night wore on, the group stumbled upon a dilapidated mausoleum, partially obscured by overgrown foliage. The door creaked open, revealing a gloomy chamber filled with cobwebs and decay. A sudden gust of wind slammed the door shut behind them, and they found themselves trapped in darkness. The mausoleum's stone walls bore the scars of time, etched with haunting engravings that seemed to tell a story of sorrow and despair. The air inside felt heavy and oppressive, as if the weight of centuries of grief lingered within its confines. The teens exchanged uneasy glances, their nerves on edge, yet a morbid curiosity kept them rooted in place. Candlelight flickered to life within the chamber, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls like spectral apparitions. The flickering flames seemed to breathe life into the forgotten memories of the dead, as if the spirits themselves were guiding the living on a haunting journey through time. The chamber's walls were adorned with aging portraits of somber figures, their faces contorted with sorrow and loss. The group studied the images, feeling an inexplicable connection to these long-deceased souls. It was as if the eyes of the painted subjects followed them, seeking to draw them into their tragic tales. The mausoleum's interior felt like a labyrinth of sorrow, and the group navigated its winding passageways cautiously. The echo of their footsteps seemed to resonate with those of the past, creating an eerie symphony of sound that reverberated through the chamber. In the depths of the mausoleum, they discovered a forgotten journal, its pages yellowed with age. As they pored over its contents, they realized it belonged to a grieving widow from centuries ago. The ink revealed heart-wrenching accounts of loss and despair, a lamentation of love torn asunder by the cruel hands of fate. Each page seemed to exude the lingering pain of the woman's words, and the group could almost feel her sorrow as if it were their own. The journal offered a glimpse into a bygone era, a testament to the enduring power of grief that transcended time and death. Within the mausoleum, they also discovered an old chest, its wood warped with age and neglect. As they opened it, a cloud of dust filled the air, releasing a musty scent that transported them to a different time. Inside the chest lay personal mementos, letters, and photographs, all preserved in their forgotten state. The letters spoke of love, longing, and heartache, telling stories of lives once lived, now confined to the annals of history. The photographs captured moments frozen in time, smiling faces of people whose names had long been lost to the ravages of time. Amidst the personal artifacts, they uncovered a tattered piece of parchment, its ink faded but still legible. It appeared to be a poem, written by a grief-stricken soul who sought solace in the words of verse. The poem spoke of loss, of yearning for a reunion with a departed loved one, and the pain of an empty heart. As they read the lines aloud, the chamber seemed to resonate with the poet's emotions, as if the words breathed new life into the forgotten past. The poem became a melancholic melody that hung in the air, blending with the sounds of the graveyard's haunting ambience. As they lingered within the mausoleum, the oppressive atmosphere weighed upon them, and the sense of being trapped in the darkness intensified. Fear gnawed at their hearts, and they yearned to escape the clutches of the past that seemed to ensnare them. In a moment of desperation, they managed to force open the mausoleum's heavy door, and they burst out into the cool night air. The cemetery's haunting spectacles seemed to have intensified in their absence, as if the spirits sought to ensure they carried the memories of the past with them. With a mixture of relief and lingering fear, the group hurriedly left the mausoleum, but they knew that the haunting encounter within its walls had left an indelible mark on their souls. The forgotten cemetery's secrets had become intertwined with their own stories, forever changing the course of their lives. As they stepped back beyond the iron gates, the moonlight cast an ethereal glow upon the graveyard, as if bidding them farewell with a solemn gaze. The haunted pasts of the forgotten cemetery remained veiled in mystery, yet their journey had offered a glimpse into the timeless realm where the living and the dead coexisted in an eternal dance. The group departed with a profound sense of reverence for the forgotten souls and an enduring understanding that the mysteries of the graveyard would forever haunt their memories. With every fiber of their beings, the group struggled to escape the oppressive mausoleum. Finally, they managed to force the door open, and they sprinted through the graveyard, terror propelling them forward. The haunting entities pursued them, but as they crossed the iron gates, the apparitions retreated, leaving behind an echoing silence. Their hearts pounded in their chests like a thunderous symphony, each beat echoing the terror that had enveloped them within the mausoleum's confines. As they ran, the cold night air filled their lungs, burning like fire, and their footsteps seemed to reverberate through the graveyard, as if the ground itself was trying to slow their escape. The haunting entities pursued them with a relentless determination, like shadows refusing to relinquish their prey. Wisps of translucent mist trailed behind, reaching out with spectral tendrils, as if trying to reclaim the intruders and draw them back into the graveyard's spectral embrace. Despite the chilling pursuit, the group pressed on, fear serving as both a hindrance and a driving force. The cemetery seemed to stretch on infinitely, its tombstones blurring into a nightmarish mosaic that threatened to ensnare them forever. As they raced towards the iron gates, the barrier between the living and the dead seemed to waver, as if the cemetery itself had come alive to ensnare its trespassers. Panic threatened to consume them, but they pushed through the fear, desperate to escape the clutches of the forgotten souls. Their hands trembled as they reached for the iron gates, feeling the cool metal beneath their fingers. The gates, once an impenetrable barrier, now offered a glimmer of hope and freedom. As they crossed the threshold, the apparitions retreated, their haunting presence withdrawing like the tide. The group stumbled beyond the cemetery's borders, collapsing onto the grassy ground outside. Their breaths came in ragged gasps, and they clung to each other like a lifeline, grateful for the safety of the living world. But they knew that the horrors they had encountered within the forgotten cemetery would remain etched in their memories forever. As they caught their breath, the realization of what they had witnessed settled upon them like a heavy shroud. The cemetery's malevolence had left an indelible mark on their souls, and they knew that they could never return to their previous lives, untouched by the supernatural. Despite escaping the graveyard's clutches, a lingering fear gnawed at their hearts, like a shadow that refused to be dispelled. The memories of the haunting specters and the cries of the forgotten souls echoed within them, leaving them forever changed. The group returned to their homes, their once adventurous spirits now subdued by the weight of the graveyard's secrets. Sleep offered no solace, as nightmares of spectral apparitions and mournful wails haunted their dreams. They tried to share their harrowing encounter with others, but the words seemed to falter, unable to convey the true depths of their terror. The forgotten cemetery had become a part of them, its malevolence embedded in their very beings. They could no longer ignore the existence of the supernatural, for it had intruded upon their lives in the most chilling way. Time passed, and the seasons changed, but the haunting memories of the forgotten cemetery remained steadfast. The group found themselves drawn to the cemetery in their waking thoughts, unable to shake the feeling that the spirits they encountered still lingered, watching from the shadows. Each visit to the graveyard became an act of catharsis, an attempt to confront the lingering fear and the spectral echoes that refused to fade. But with each return, the cemetery seemed to grow darker and more foreboding, as if it sensed their presence and sought to draw them back into its embrace. The forgotten cemetery became a constant reminder of the thin veil between the worlds of the living and the dead. It served as a haunting testament to the power of the supernatural, a realm that defied rational explanation and forever altered the group's perception of the world. And so, the small town's residents continued to whisper tales of the cursed graveyard, their warnings heeded by the wise and the wary. The once curious teenagers had grown older, but their lives remained forever entwined with the forgotten cemetery's malevolence, carrying with them the weight of its haunting mysteries. As time passed, the small town's folklore grew, and the forgotten cemetery became a legend, shrouded in myth and mystery. Its stories continue to be passed down through generations, a testament to the enduring power of fear and fascination that the supernatural evokes in the human psyche. But the group knew the truth. They had experienced the haunting reality of the forgotten cemetery, and it was a chilling tale etched in the depths of their souls, a story that would forever be whispered in hushed tones, reminding them of the spectral world that coexists with our own.